Hour 4 of Road Gang Radio with Jimmy Mack, live from the Fastport Studios. Take it away, sir.
Oh, my God. One of the most amazing things about Vince Guaraldi's soundtracks, they are the soundtrack of many people's lives. Our good friend Trucker Boson wrote me, a number of you guys wrote me individually yesterday about how it was the soundtrack of so many. If you are Generation X, it literally is the soundtrack of your life. Is the fact that it manages to somehow capture the impossible. Anybody who knows anything about Peanuts knows that great mixture of existentialism, sadness, and the joys of childhood all kind of mixed into one great package. Somebody's music actually manages to capture that.
100%. And beautiful thing about that music, it's timeless. You can be any age and know that because it's played every year.
It's played every year, and it's become the soundtrack for so many people's lives. It also is a great reminder that whatever season is, and so many of those soundtracks capture every season, that they are just extraordinary for making you feel both the nostalgia for childhood and also how difficult childhood is, which is one of the great things that Charles M. Schulz was able to achieve in creating Peanuts. This is a crazy great story, by the way, because there were people when that first special came out who were absolutely convinced it was going to be a complete and total bomb. That's the absolute truth of the story, that it's kind of like, yeah, this is going to blow up in everybody's face. This will be a disaster. And it turned out that the visionary producer, Lee Mendelson, made a really, really big call in regards to that and getting Vince Guaraldi to actually make one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. And he continued to do that great work for them. With that in mind, the 75th anniversary of Peanuts, and by the way, we are big fans of Peanuts on this show. We got a lot of Peanuts merchandise, by the way. Jason and Sean Mendelson, who were sons of the visionary producer Lee Mendelson, join us this morning. We are several decades from, well, many decades, by the way, 75 decades, but they have discovered something. I want them to tell you all about it. Jason and Sean, welcome to the show. It is such a pleasure to have you both. Good morning.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Yeah, as you said, it's been 75 years of Peanuts. This year is the 60th anniversary of A Charlie Brown Christmas. And the thing we're celebrating today is the 50th anniversary of You're a Good Sport, Charlie Brown. We love being with you because this is our road-based special from 1975 where they have a motocross race between Snoopy and all the characters. And the great thing about it is the score, like all those early specials, is done by Vince Guaraldi. And it's a fantastic testament to his beautiful interpretation of Schultz's philosophies to bring to life the characters through the music. And we just found, during the pandemic, these wonderful session tapes. We'd never played them back since they were used to make the soundtrack. And now we have them for everybody coming out Friday on Zoetrope vinyl and CD and digital. And it's, like you said, it's a soundtrack to our lives, and we think it's the soundtrack to many other people's lives. We've been associated with this since we were born.
Really quickly, too, by the way, images of the characters appear. Talk about that with the 45 RPM. This is the craziest, most wonderful, and typical Peanuts thing.
Yes. So, by the way, we appreciate you guys are fans. It's not lost on us, and that's why we're here. And I've been listening to your guys' show for the last month. I appreciate you guys as well. What's been really fun is a gentleman named Drew Tetz designed this Zoetrope. He's designed Zoetropes for Sabrina Carpenter all the way to the Grateful Dead and everything in between. And it's actually, you just posted on Instagram, and it's blowing up. It's going viral, as it were, we're really excited about it because it means more people get to hear Vince Guaraldi's music. And these scenes, there's 9 scenes captured on the 2 sides of the Zoetrope, and you see it come to life. It's the first time Peanuts has ever allowed us to release a LP with these scenes coming to life. And my favorite scene is when Charlie Brown puts a pumpkin on his head, the juice runs down. You get to see that over and over again while you listen to this great synthed-out score, the most synthed-out thing from Vince Guaraldi.
Oh, my God. And like I said, that's the kind of stuff that, like I said, people are so now into the tactile, into the experience. People get boxes now of goodies and all kinds of fun stuff. As we move further onto line, people are desperate and hungry for more in the real world kind of experiences. And this is the kind of stuff that you guys are kind of imagining where we're headed. Peanuts and everybody kind of involved with them has been kind of on the cutting edge of this. I do want to go back to the past to kind of bring us forward into the present, though. And either one of you can kind of take point on this. Can we talk about the legacy of your father to kind of begin with this? Because we're a legacy network as well. I don't know if you know this, Dave Nemo's my father-in-law. I'm married to his daughter. By the way, people do the family business, and that's okay. And I kind of wanted you guys to celebrate Lee for a second here before we kind of move into you guys and the now. Either one of you can start.
Jason, go
Sure.
ahead.
So Lee was our father. He came out of the Air Force in the 50s and went to work for his father in the fruits and vegetable produce business and became a salesman. But in his time in the service, he worked in radio and television. That was his first passion. So he got a job at KPX TV in San Francisco, the local CBS affiliate, which led to him working with Willie Mays. His first documentary on his own was A Man Named Mays. And that led to him reaching out to Charles Schulz because he figured if he'd done a special about the world's greatest baseball player, he might as well see if he could do one about the world's worst, Charlie Brown. And so on that fateful trip across the Golden Gate Bridge to go up to Sebastopol, California, where Charles Schulz lived, he heard Cast Your Fate to the Wind by Vince Guaraldi. It was his favorite song. And when he got there, met with Charles Schulz and said, I want to follow you around like I did Willie Mays. Sparky said, I'm not interested. I just want to do my strip. My dad said, well, did you happen to see my show on Willie Mays? He goes, Willie Mays is my hero. And so the whole reason this all exists is because of Willie Mays and the Giants. But he then produced all the cartoon specials going through. And the beauty of this, and you talk about it being family, Sean and I were both voices when we were little kids on the specials. I got to put the specials together in my adult life. But the beauty of this is each of these men worked together until they passed away. So it wasn't just the blood family, it was the work family that they created and engendered all these years. So Vince Guaraldi passed away in 1976, the day he recorded It's Arbor Day, Charlie Brown. Charles Schulz, the last strip he produced came out the day he passed away in 2000. Bill Melendez worked on He's a Bully, Charlie Brown until the day he passed away in the late aughts. And our father passed away on Christmas 2019 when Charlie Brown Christmas was playing for the 54th year in a row on network television. So all of these men gave their lives to it. Now we've had the privilege of doing the same. So there's a little bit of nepotism, but we're also very prideful in the work we've been able to pull off here over these years.
There's nothing wrong, by the way, with actually carrying on the traditions of the family business, if in fact you are good stewards of that business. And by the way, I want to point out a couple of things. You know how you know these guys are close? Because they're using the word Sparky. And anybody who actually has been listening to this show for a while, who's actually heard our other interviews with people from the Peanuts extended family, knows when we hear Sparky what that means in regards to their proximity and their love of that particular man. I also want to point out, guys, that your dad went from the say hey kid to the say what kid in regards to baseball skill. I kind of wanted to point that out really quickly. Can you kind of talk about, like I said, either one of you can take point on this. Can you kind of talk about doing those voices as well? Because there's something about being a kid and doing those voices that the pressure of, let's say Bart Simpson's voice is that of a fully grown woman with all the kind of anxieties that go along with it. Did you find that in doing those voices, it was a great way to kind of move into the family business in regards to anybody who does their business right at some point actually is engaged in the act of play? Did that kind of set the spirit for how you guys would handle the rest of your careers in this area?
I'm going to let Jason answer this mostly, but I do want to point out one of the things I take great pride in as far as our dad, Lee Mendelson, is it was his idea to use actual children's voices in 1965 at Charlie Brown Christmas. Is I think the first time anybody had done that, and it carried through all the way to the present day. So, but I'll let Jason talk about it because he got Rerun, Peppermint Patty. I just got a kid that throws off on the Mayflower ship in '89, so the nepotism was more drawn towards my brother. He'll speak more about the experience.
Go ahead, man.
Our older siblings, Glenn and Linda, also voiced characters. Glenn was Schroeder in The Great Pumpkin. Our sister was Frida and other characters as well. But the beauty of Peanuts, like Sean just said, is that they did in the beginning, Charlie Brown Christmas, half the cast were professional actors who'd been on television, and half were friends of our older brothers who were the same age as the voices being portrayed in the special. And so it was always a mix of both amateurs and professionals, friends and non-friends throughout the whole history. And those original voices were so good at it that ever since we've tried to match to those original voices. So all the cast through all the years have always gone back to that original special that have that innocence, but also that wisdom that, Schulz so beautifully portrayed in the strips, brought to life in the specials. And I think one of the great things for us, since we were up in Northern California and not in the Hollywood scene, as many of our performers were, is that we were not part of that culture. So when we did this, it was a weekend where Dad would say, hey, we're going to go to the studio on a Saturday. I'm going to say the line, you say it back. And that's how we do these lines.
Jason was the voice of Pepper Patty, so my dad I remember he had him scream until his voice was so hoarse. He naturally had a hoarse voice, but it made it even more, hey, Chuck, with all that raspiness you can muster. But go ahead, Jason. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and
you
some
sly
of the,
dog.
Some of the beauty.
I'm sorry.
Exactly. You sly dog. You got to admit, the one great thing about Charlie Brown is he just keeps plugging away. He never gives up. And see, I haven't yelled as much as I did as a child, so I've lost most of it. But the irony about all of these characters and about having children, which I also suffered, is that puberty ends most of our careers because I couldn't play girls anymore once I started to go through that change. But then every time we get a new cast, so there's always a renewed generational shift to the next set of voices that bring their own charms and talents to playing these characters. But the beauty of it is that we all can identify with the characters, no matter who voiced them. But for Sean and I, and Sean's being modest, Sean did quite a great job in his voice acting as well. But the beauty of these characters are we can all identify with them, whether it was 60 years ago in Christmas, which is still timeless, or the new shows they're doing today with Apple TV. And you're right, Sparky was our family friend. Sparky named me. Sparky Schultz was one of our dad's best friends. And so even though he was this larger-than-life, brilliant genius who created all this great art and words for the world, he also was just our dad's, really good friend who we knew our whole life. So I think, and that Sparky name was shared with everybody. It isn't just to those of us who knew him that well, but anybody who got to meet him got to know Sparky really well. He was a wonderful man.
And by the way, I want to make one more comment about family because there's something else that goes on in the mid-'60s all the way till the end of the '70s. And it's not just you guys, but if you look at the world of Jim Henson, if you look at the world of Francis Ford Coppola, there really is a thing that is kind of lost to some degree as people have become very, very corporate in the way the arts are created these days, these vast kind of impersonal organizations. One of the things that Peanuts has maintained is that sense of American zoetrope, speaking of zoetropes, and of course, Jim Henson's Muppets as well, too, where you have these groups of extended families who actually were in the arts in the same way that you had these theatrical troupes back at the turn of the 19th and beginning of the 20th century, where the familiarity and that familyness creates these works of art that really have a sense of the lived in. I mean, there's a joke in my family, guys. I'm not kidding, where my brothers and I take the Charlie Brown, the hoo, and we actually turn it into the Godfather theme. We kind of make that transition. But there's something about it. I keep thinking, and this is the weirdest connection, and if you completely lose me, you can say, Jimmy, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, where I actually have these moments where the moment in the Godfather where they're all sitting around eating that Chinese food before they go off on that terrible hit, in many ways, you'll have these moments in Peanuts of people just kind of sitting around doing their thing, whether it's dancing on a stage to get ready for a Christmas pageant or eating popcorn and little pieces of pretzel to have a makeshift Thanksgiving dinner. There's always a sense of friendship and lingering that go on in family works that you often don't find in much more what I call corporate-driven sort of get to the next point, move on. Am I making any sense whatsoever?
Yes, we absolutely agree with you. Not only did my dad treat Guaraldi and Sparky and Bill Melendez like family. They're all mostly Bay Area guys. Bill was in Southern California. But there was a sense of community and family involved. And even in the Bay Area in the 60s and 70s, all the music and stuff that Vince Guaraldi was hearing. Jerry Garcia was a contemporary, played with him in San Francisco.
Another family organization. Absolutely.
Exactly. And Santana. And we've gotten an opportunity to meet all these sidemen that worked with him. They all cherished the relationship with Vince. And when you talk about these scenes from the show, Charles Schultz's pathos or ethos or whatever you want to call it, the way these characters come to life is perfectly complemented by these scores by Vince. And what's come to light is Vince made very simple, innocent, pure, bubbly music that is synonymous with these scenes that you see. And when we've been analyzing the music separate from the show and taking out the words and the story and the visuals, we discovered that it was, in fact, much more. Jason and I first discovered it, and now all the fans and the people in the press, it's been amazing, the ride we've been taking, because we're able to, Jason and I take such care as custodians of this music to provide the fans the best fidelity experience. We make it sustainable. That's a big deal for us too, and our family, because we want to take care of the environment and reduce our carbon footprint. And it's been really exciting because every different soundtrack has its own unique thing. And this is the most synthed out, you're a good sport, Charlie Brown, most synthed out version of what Vince did. And we grew up listening to this music. So speaking of family, it's very much part of our essence, as it were.
One of the other things too, and like I said, I feel like I'm dwelling on a lot of the same points here, but I'm fascinated by the idea of being stewards. People don't understand what that means these days. The idea that you'll often get a brand or a particular product, or more importantly, a work of art that means a lot to a lot of people, and that you have to live in two places. One, you have to plan for what it's going to look like given new technologies, new possibilities, and new opportunities, while at the same time not losing the core value of the thing itself. And I was kind of interested how you guys together ensure that Peanuts remains Peanuts and that the production values of these specials remain what they were, while at the same time acknowledging that we have new platforms and new possibilities.
The beauty of what Charles Schulz was able to do, because he was so prolific and beloved, is he was mostly left alone. He was in charge of his art and his message. And because, again, it's what you were talking about, it being not very corporate, because he was in Northern California, I'll point out our father was very friendly with Francis Ford Coppola, also Northern California, Vince Guaraldi, Northern California, Lee Mendelson Film Production, Northern California, and our partner, as Sean said, Bill Melendez.
I met Coppola at his winery, by the way. That was an exciting moment in my life, just randomly. Go ahead, Jason.
But really quickly, Jason, really quickly, I
Yeah.
wanted to say I actually met Coppola too. I met him at a party Anne Rice threw on Halloween in the city of New Orleans, where we are right now. But go on, please continue.
Well, that's cooler. That's cooler than our story. I met him. That's very cool. But my point is that because of their isolation.
Double side note, Jason. Double side note. Good grief. Oh, good grief. Poor Charlie Brown comes out of the New Orleans tradition. And go check out Short Summer, Charlie Brown. I know you guys are deep into New Orleans music, and that's where you're from, Jimmy Mack. So check out Short Summer. Jason, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
Yeah, all I was going to say was that their ability, because of their isolation from the L.A. and New York scene, and because of Schultz's prominence, they were able to do quite a few things, I think, that other people might not have been able to get away with. And part of that led to the idea that they made all these specials. They are not series. They did movies as well, but they had regular specials on television every year of their lives. And the music was left to the creation of those four men. And those four men working together allowed them to do whatever they wanted to do. And we feel a complete obligation to honor that tradition. And part of what we've done is we found these tapes. We've been looking for these tapes. Our father asked us to look for this long before he passed. We couldn't find the best source until we found them during the pandemic. And what we've done is we've spent the last 5 years meticulously looking, searching, cataloging, identifying what they are, and then working on them in an analog way. We're doing them with our friends in a very, very deliberate and thoughtful way to create the best sounding thing to honor these men. This is not about making a buck. This is about honoring Vince Guaraldi and his legacy and letting the world hear him. Everybody knows him from Christmas, but all these other albums from the other times of the year and the other specials are lesser known, and we think they're just as good.
The Guaraldi Renaissance, by the way, the Guaraldi Renaissance, because it's year-round now. Every season's a Guaraldi season. It's a Peanuts Renaissance with the 75th, but this music takes place all year round, and we're hoping that more people catch on to the rest of it.
Guys.
And the idea for Sean and I is we care about this deeply. We want to honor these people, and the most important thing is for people to get to hear Vince Guaraldi and to see the cartoons when they want to see them on Apple. And so we spend a lot of time making sure they're as good as they can be.
I'm grateful. I have such gratitude to be able to work on this stuff, and I hope the fans appreciate it as much as we do.
Let me tell you how crazy they are about this. We've had a couple of our listeners who literally have been writing me for the last couple of days saying, when is that going to be? How's that going to be? Our good friend Trucker Boson actually reached out and wanted to know, didn't your dad do the Snoopy voice? Is that true?
No. So Bill Melendez, the great animator who was our father's partner, he was the voice of Snoopy and the voice of Woodstock. He'd worked for Disney and Warner Brothers, everybody before he worked on Peanuts his whole life. But again, Snoopy and Woodstock are Mexican-American and a wonderful, wonderful contribution to our culture and history. And so, yes, if you speed up Bill Melendez's voice, he had this great thick accent. That's the sound you hear when Snoopy speaks in all the movies and TV shows from the whole period.
Yeah, Trucker Boson. I'm reading his quote. I remember Jason voice rerun, and Sister Karen was Peppermint Patty. I know, by the way, Peppermint Patty. We now know who Peppermint Patty was. I'm gonna bring up another illustrator because this really kind of talks about the amazing institution that you guys actually work with. Bill Watterson recently had his birthday celebrated and all this kind of stuff. He never merchandised at any level, and I think part of that was if you read him he would not let people make a doll because he didn't want people to really figure out whether or not Hobbs was real. In fact, was he
Correct.
real or imagination? But part of it was the fact that he didn't have collaborators. He didn't have people in his life that he could trust, that he actually was comfortable working with, that he was
We
very...
tried.
Yeah.
Lee reached out to him. We tried to animate his shows for over a decade. He was very
That was one
he
of
was
my
very
favorites, too.
interested. He was very interested in keeping that. And by the way, so was Charles Schultz. Charles Schultz said no. He said, I want to control this, my strip. I don't want to work with other people. It's mine. And for whatever reason, in 1964, he agreed to let our father in, and he trusted Bill Melendez, and that's the only two people he worked with for the rest of his life in this space.
And that's
I think that's not unique, but it is. I mean, it is unique, but it's very special too.
It's so funny because I don't know if you guys were listening earlier to the show. We have been having complete in-depth conversation about you're only as good as your partners. That has been an ongoing theme on this show. I know if you've been listening to it, we talk about it all the time. And man, it is such an important thing. One of our earlier callers talked about the idea of being seen. And if you are, it is only when you are seen and people actually can tell you what it is you're up to and really get what you're doing that they're willing to make the leap and work with you at that point. And it really means that all of these men working together were incredible empaths for the work of the other ones. That's really what it kind of comes. Your father has to actually get Vince Guaraldi's music, and Vince Guaraldi has to actually look at Peanuts and understand what it is he's composing for, and then all three of them have to agree that this is exactly what we need, and then you've got to find somebody to kind of be a maestro in the middle of it to kind of orchestrate that. This doesn't happen on a regular basis, and it's a miracle, and we should recognize it when it comes, right?
Absolutely. When I grew up around this stuff, I was embarrassed by it because I was in it too deep, and I was like, oh, Peanuts, we'd get the free swag and the shirts, and I wouldn't wear them. But right before my dad passed away, I had a major epiphany, which is, like you just said, the combination of these men's effort is creative triumph. I'm so proud of what they've accomplished and what they've contributed to America internationally as well with their art. And it says something more than, it's just throwaway, whatever. There's a reason that an 8-year-old can watch a Charlie Brown Christmas today and an 8-year-old from 1965 can watch it and has the same impact on their interest in cartoons, jazz, how we treat one another. And so it's magic. That's what I want to say. Listening to his music and analyzing it's magic.
Our father called it serendipity. Everything was serendipitous. And when it comes to even the television show, as you mentioned at the opening, it might not have ever happened. And one of the things that happened was when Vince wrote the score for Charlie Brown Christmas, my father and he thought the opening was a little too slow. It didn't really work, just the waltz. So he said, Lee, go get a lyricist. I don't know how to do that. Go get somebody to write the lyrics. And my father called everybody. They had about 2 days to do this, and nobody was available. So my father sat down on the back of an envelope. He wrote the words, Christmas time is here, happiness and cheer, fun for all, the children call their favorite time of year, and the rest of the lyrics in about 5 minutes. They went to the local church where Vince had a regular gig. They got the kids to record that lyric, and that became the opening of the show. It's now been covered 20,000 times. All of it was done out of necessity and accident, but also serendipity because those four men got each other and figured out a way to make that work for 4+ decades on how to put something together that they all believed in. And I think that is very lucky. It's of its time. It's not something that can be replicated. And it's all comes out of those, as you said, miracles or serendipitous occasions that otherwise would not normally happen.
And it's also a great reminder, too, that it doesn't always have to play out the way it plays out. I mean, how many great bands, how many great movies, how many great collaborative works of art didn't happen because people couldn't put their own egos aside and work with the people that they were working with and make it happen. When you get very talented people together, as was your father, as was Bill Melendez, as was Charles Schultz, you get these people together, as was Vince Guaraldi. There's no guarantee that everybody's going to be like, you know what, you are a worthy talent for my talents, and let's make this work together. It is an extraordinary story from beginning to end. Let's, by the way, talk about what you guys are, along with the big thing that is happening right now. What are you guys working on right now in regards to what's next for you guys? What are you hoping, dreaming, scheming, and planning? Big pause there.
Our intention is to release as many of these as we are capable of releasing. And what's been really what's been really exciting is how the young people have come out in droves. We released this Easter egg for Record Store Day this year, and it's been a conduit. I use the term, it's the gateway drug to jazz, so that young people can be exposed to these short clips. It's a novelty thing because jazz is usually 6 to 10 minute jams usually on average, but we got 30-second to 3-minute things, but what it does is it entices people to go check out deeper, go check out Cast Your Fate to the Wind, Ginza Samba, and I think because people have responded so favorably to it, Jason and I get to keep making it because this music makes you feel good. And I know you guys got these truckers out there listening to this music. I think it's the perfect traveling music, and I hope everyone can enjoy it.
Oh, my God. Go on.
And the other thing we have for next year, it's going to be 75 years of Vince Guaraldi's music making. He started making music professionally in 1951. He passed so young in 1976, 50 years ago next year. We're going to celebrate him as much as we can in 2026. We're going to have a live symphony that's going to tour. We already have the Charlie Brown Christmas stage show, The Chores. All the shows are on Apple TV. We have all sorts of albums we hope to release in the next few years, and we're trying to do it very carefully so that it coincides with either an anniversary or something special in Vince's or Peanuts history. But part of this is celebrating. We've been waiting.
We have Vince Guaraldi. Vince Guaraldi did a draft or an intention, speaking of Woodstock's voice, where he did a little Woodstock riff on this one particular track we've been working on, and it ended up being Bill Melendez, as we stated earlier in the show. But be on the lookout for that.
Guys.
And one of the great things for next year is that all of this music is being found in many cases for the first time, but we already all know it. It's all instinctively part of our, like you said, part of our lives and the soundtrack of we can remember from these shows. But in having it come out separately from the show, you get to hear all those great little nuances. And part of what we hope to explore next year also is just how creative and great he was beyond just the stuff that he's known for in Peanuts. So all that's sort of secret, but also we're excited to announce it when it comes out. But, you know, this stuff, we've been looking for it for 50 to 60 years. And now that we've found it, we're living back in those moments again as much as we can.
Jason and Sean Mendelson, who I'm going to get back on this show if they actually have any time available to talk about playwriting, to talk about producing, and a whole bunch of other stuff. You can find them at mendelsonproductions.com, by the way, on the Book of Face, on the grams of Insta, and everywhere else where you get your social medias. Guys, I can't thank you enough. This was absolutely terrific, and I know there are a number of truckers out there who are smiling ear to ear while at the same time feeling that little pang of nostalgia. Thank you both so much.
Thank you,
so
gentlemen.
Your audience too.
And
Thank you.
I hope all you truckers out there enjoy the music as you're riding the road. Appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you so much, sir. And they appreciate you as well.